And welcome back to the Derby City Fandom podcast. Today we got some fun new Marvel IP to talk about. Agatha All Along. Wrapped up not too long ago. Gentlemen, welcome back first off.
Hey guys.
What's up, everybody?
And
Man, we have so much to talk about with this show. I have so much to discuss because they just pulled the rug out under me. I was loving this thing, and they just pulled the freaking rug out.
You think so?
Me.
I liked it all the way through.
Did you? I loved it, like the first 3/4 of it. But boy,
there's definitely one episode out of the 9, I believe, that stood out as like just the better one of them all.
Which you saying one single episode stood
Yeah,
out?
oh yeah, one episode for me. It was just like clearly the one that was like best produced, best shot.
Which one was that?
That's Hand in Mind. I believe that was episode number 7.
No, I don't know the names. Like what took place?
That was the tarot reading episode.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Is that the one where the teen you realize his true identity?
No, that's the next
one.
episode.
Okay. All right. So the tarot is one like when they're at the.
That's
Sorry,
around
I'm
the
not
ceiling
Jewish,
tower.
but whatever
That's
that-
when the ceiling is like collapsing and there's like swords and shit.
Oh, yeah.
That one.
Okay,
Dealing
yeah.
with the diviner lady, Lilia.
Lilia.
But yeah, there's a lot going on. So, Colin,
Yeah, buddy.
are you ready for some ratings, or do I need to take the reins again?
Nope, I'm ready for it, baby.
Fantastic. Go on ahead.
Well, interesting that you have that on the screen already, but IMDb's got it at a whopping 7.3 out of 10.
Whoa, that seems low.
Um,
I mean, maybe the bar is just low, but
if
disagree. I would have. My guess would have been it would have been higher, but
Well, according to IMDb, they mostly all average in the 7.
what? So this
area.
is saying the first episode was 7.3, then it was 7.6, 7.5, 7.3, then it jumped to about 8 later, and then episode 7 was that the episode you're referring to with
Yes,
9.1.
yes. Which I agree
So-
with you, Kenny.
So people, the internet, and it seems like you guys are agreeing with them, like the ending better than the start.
No.
Yeah, I disagree with that too. Like I'd like the ending a lot better than the ending.
Here's kind of my take, and if we're just gonna end up jumping around this entire episode, that's fine. I'm cool with that. But let's do this. All right, I'll take the reins from here.
Yeah, go on ahead.
I'll start us off. Pretty much, the first episode to me was kind of like, all right, I'm intrigued, but at the same time, okay.
It's
like,
a continuation of...
This is kind of
WandaVision,
boring. Is this gonna be another Marvel series that's gonna end up going down into the toilet? But then you get to episode 2, and pretty much all the way to episode 8, and just like we just saw on IMDb, you know, the score goes up and up and up, right? But then you get to that last episode, and for me, the episode seemed to me to be in the wrong place. Like, episode 9 should be like episode maybe 2, maybe 3. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because that entire episode was just more of like it should have been just in the beginning. Whatever, fine. But the episode the entire time was just about her son, essentially. B, he was just singing the entire time, and it just didn't sit right with me the last episode. I was honestly kind of let down a little bit.
I think my theory is they didn't know what to do with it. Because episode 9, it's my personal opinion, I thought it was horrible. I thought it was boring. I was like,
Right.
I don't give a
That's what I'm
shit
saying.
anymore.
Well, that's because of how they decided to
The placement was wrong.
place everything.
Why
Because
don't-
they had the big, like, climax the episode before, which is, Billy Maximoff.
That was weird too.
Like, realizing that, oh, hey, this is actually kind of all my fault.
100% his fault.
And, and then in the next episode, like, you get, like, some more of the Harkin backstory of like, okay, the road and the ballad was all just a ploy to, kill other witches. Well, when you have somebody as powerful as a Maximoff believing that full-heartedly and then just creating reality.
Creating a literal road and
Yes.
a door. That's essentially what happens in that, that second episode is when they're all getting together, and that's when Agatha's goal was essentially is to fool them into thinking they're gonna be able to, walk down said road, but eventually she was trying to provoke them, and then they, attack her, and she absorbs all their powers and kills them simultaneously. But with Billy, however,
Did they ever explain why she takes the powers?
That's just how
she's a covenless witch, essentially. So, like, all the witches, typically, they all have a group and they're a coven, right? And so they all want to do witchly things where she just doesn't fit in, if you will, with any of the groups because she's, more powerful witch, but she got her powers taken away. And so that's why she gets she joins all these covens, and then, like, oh, did you hear about the Witch's Road, which we end up finding out that Billy's the one Nikki is the one that came up with that ballad, which then later on turns into a famous song that What's-Her-Face's mom ended up writing or whatever.
Alice.
Yeah.
Alice?
Whatever.
Alice Lou or something?
Yeah.
Anyway, so Nikki was the one that came up with the song, and then, the rest is history.
Yeah.
But she used that as a ploy to gather all these covens and, try to go down said road, but it's all a ploy, it's all fake, nothing's real about it.
Yeah.
And so they
It's
get
a catchy song.
It is a catchy song. But you see in that first episode that she is like visibly like shocked and surprised that the road shows up.
Yeah.
So it's just like, huh. Like that's like your first little tip that something is odd.
Well, I took it as like it's never worked for her before. So I honestly did not
in the
see,
beginning, yes,
yeah.
I kind of agree with you. Like, she's been trying to get these witches together, and, she didn't really have much faith, but it actually ended up working. And the fact that, what's the one lady's name from that 70s show? And she wasn't even a witch, but she just tagged along, essentially.
Miss Davis.
Right.
Sharon Davis.
Deborah Jo Rupp.
Yeah.
Actress.
So, she was obviously going to be the first one to go. But essentially, all the witches did die, said one.
Yep.
And that being Jen, right?
Jen Kale.
Yep. And she ends up getting her prize, if you will, and ends up leaving and crawling out of a hole and flying away from Westview.
Would you mind? So, Colin, you made the comment like the first episode didn't really catch your attention too much. Like, it wasn't good, but it wasn't bad.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate a little bit more? Because I thought the first episode was really good. So the start of the series really caught my attention. So I'm shocked to hear you say that. So what stood out to you where you're like, yeah, it's not for me?
It seemed like more. I mean, that's actually what they were going for, and that's why it kind of turned me off. Is they were extending more off of WandaVision, so you kind of like. I don't know. You don't necessarily have to watch WandaVision before you watch Agatha All Along, but it's recommended that you do.
I think it's helpful.
It's helpful, right? And so that's kind of what they're going for, is that she's still under the spell or whatever that, Wanda basically put over Westview, essentially, and she's this whole, detective and whatnot. And I was like, okay, fine, whatever. But then, we see the teen break into the house and all that, and Aubrey Plaza ends up becoming was she like FBI? I guess is that what she was?
Yeah. So
yeah,
Harkin was like an FBI.
Yeah, it's
sort
just
of detective.
It seemed like slow, and just it kind of just turned me off a little bit. But then towards the end of that episode, I was like, oh, okay, so now we're actually getting somewhere. So like. I feel like they should have essentially, like, at the end of WandaVision, the spell broke, and that's when Agatha all along. That's where I think like that last episode should have been like first or maybe second, because then that would be more interesting. You see this kid singing and whatnot, and you see like all these covens come together and try and kill Agatha, but she ends up taking her powers. Like, okay, what's going on? Like that first episode should be like, okay, what's going on? I want to know what's going on. But the first episode for me was just like, yeah, what's going on? But at the same time, I don't really care if I watch another episode.
Yeah.
It was a lazy Saturday for me, so I ended up binging a lot of it.
Yeah. Now,
same question to you, Kenny.
Sure. I'm going to kind of disagree with Colin's kind of point there that the majority of the intrigue is figuring out who the teen is in this show. So if you kind of spoil it early on, like, yeah, sure, there's like magic preventing him from being able to say like what his name is to the other characters. But as us, the audience, we would kind of already know too much of the plot early on if we had like that last episode moved forward where we see like, okay, the kid and his family get in a car accident, he dies, and the spirit of Billy just kind of floats on in or whatever.
It's funny you guys say that because I'm torn now. Like, I'm split between the two of you all, which I was not expecting. And what I mean by that is I agree 100% with Colin. The final episode where they kind of did the flashback during the Revolutionary War kind of times or whatever. I mean, 0 sense. And that's why my theory is they didn't know what to do with it. Like, they felt like they had to answer the question. Right? Well, fuck, we'll just throw it on the end of it. So that's what they end up doing.
Yeah.
And but you're saying it's like, oh, they don't want to spoil the plot. But my argument is like that was the part of the plot that I truly didn't care about. Like, I was somewhat interested in it, but in reality, I'm like, that plot twist didn't work for me. Yeah. Now the other like, I was super interested about the road and who the teen is, and the tie to Wanda and all that. I was super interested in that. So like everything to do with Agatha herself, I was like, it's not the plot I was paying attention to. So I kind of tend to agree with Collins. Like, they should have just done that episode 2 or 3 and got it out of the way because they didn't know what to do with it, and they just plugged it at the end, and it made 0 freaking sense.
Well, I think that they plug it that way because in episode 8 is where he's going back through his room. He knows he's Billy at this point, and he's like coming to the conclusion that the road is based off of random things in his room, right? But at that point, he doesn't know where the idea for the road came from. So that's like the one little story beat in his head that he's not 100% on, because he doesn't know if he actually, like, how much of reality at this point is what he made up on the spot.
Yeah, that's the elephant in the room for me. And I'd be curious if you guys had the same thoughts. I was fascinated by the road. I was absolutely fascinated by it. And I felt like the rug was pulled out underneath my feet when they were like, well, just kidding. The teen made it all up. I was like, this sucks. Like, I was actually looking forward to, that's how, like, you go back to the first episode where they're, like, in the basement, and you guys were mentioning that Agatha was, like, genuinely surprised to see the door appear. She was like, what the? And I was like, well, maybe she just hasn't been able to, conjure the road before or whatever. So, like, I was genuinely shocked. I was like, well, this sucks. Like, the whole concept of the road seems really fascinating and enthralling and thrilling. And I was like, and then they're just like, oh, no, it's just based off
the song.
Shit in my bedroom. And I was like, that sucks. I don't know. Did you guys have the same feeling as me?
Certain parts of it come off as like, okay, the things are lining up, and you wouldn't know that they were lining up unless like you saw like how the teen's room was set up. So it's like, you see like the
who
different,
cares?
like the
they should have just made
stuff.
the thing real. That's what.
Well, the thing is that everybody but Agatha believes that it's real, even before the teen ever made it.
They should have never made the teen, like, the big reveal was who the teen was.
Sure.
And then they're like, well, we'll just throw another reveal in, like, just kidding, he made the road. And I'm like, dude, you guys ruined, like, this fascinating aspect of this whole thing. So it's my opinion on it.
So part of that is also a separate tieback that Nicholas Scratch is actually a villain character in Marvel. I believe his big people that he's attached to is the Fantastic Four. Yeah.
But maybe by them. Like, is this all in the comics? Is the Witch's Road? Is that all kind of?
No, so
No.
that's like Agatha. I think was
Agatha
brought up maybe by name, but it's never really delved into until the show, like who Nicholas Scratch's parents were.
Right. And well, since we're on the subject of Agatha, obviously, another thing that I kind of wish they did it again. Marvel did it again. Essentially, they made a title show about somebody else.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. They did.
Oh God, you're not even wrong.
I completely forgot that. Yeah, they did. You're 100% right.
Yes.
Well, the first one was Ahsoka not being about Ahsoka. That's Marvel. Well, that's Disney, not Marvel, I guess.
Well, but you catch my drift.
No,
like,
I do. It lined up in my
it's
head.
Once again, a series is
All
given a
roads lead
title
to the
show.
Acolyte. That's all I know.
it's just like, what are we doing? Like, we essentially are giving a show about a woman, but it's really about this kid. And honestly, this might be a hot take, but like, I've even talked with like friends and colleagues about this. Like, Wanda honestly sucks as a character.
I agree with you.
Nobody cares. Everybody is essentially, maybe I'm generally speaking, or I don't know, I don't want to speak for everybody, but in my opinion, like, nobody gives a shit about the Maximoffs at all. Like, in the beginning,
there's one that's important, and his name happens to be Magneto.
Spoiler. God, go.
Well,
okay.
that was the big thing in the
fine.
Avengers.
Then let's make a freaking series about Magneto, but actually make it about freaking his son. Then
Dude,
fine.
Colin, that argument goes back to they don't understand their audience, and I agree 100% with you. Disney does not understand their audience, so I agree 100% with you. They're making these. They're trying to cram down people's throats. Like, hey, you really need to care about these characters. And I'm like, yeah. Why don't you pick somebody else? So I agree 100% with you. And they did the same mistake. They made this series about someone else who the title was not about.
Just generally speaking, like, Marvel overall needs to get a grip on what the fuck their plan is, because right now they're putting out these like mini series about particular characters, but here in the next upcoming couple of years, like, we have all these like big time, villains that are supposed to do shit, but like nothing is there's no bridges. I don't see any bridges. Like, if we go back to like Iron Man and we go to Infinity War and all that, we actually like saw the pieces being built together. I have no idea. I don't know about you all, but I have zero clue where we are going, because we got She-Hulk, we got freaking all these other freaking bullshit miniseries that have come out, and there's more to come, by the way. Where are they going? Because Kang can't use him anymore. Thanks a lot to fucking Jonathan Majors. And we have, Robert Downey Jr. coming as Dr. Doom now.
Hey, that might be a good thing.
That will probably be good, and I'm going to say that a lot of that's going to hinge on Robert Downey Jr.'s ability to act. He's a great actor, so that's probably going to save it.
So that's why I like, personally, I'm excited to see Dr. Doom, or Robert Downey Jr. play Dr. Doom. I think he's going to kick ass, because he's not just going to take up a role just for a quick buck. That's not really the vibe I get from him. But like, if we're going that route, we got to think about Moon Knight and a bunch of these other miniseries, especially Moon Knight, by the way, which came out 2-3 years ago, and we haven't even gotten a season 2 yet. Like, what the fuck?
That was a good one too.
I enjoyed Moon Knight. I mean, sure, there's some shit that I had some issues with, but that's why we do this podcast, is to talk about the positives and the negatives, and hopefully Marvel, receives our word of advice. But very unlikely. But anyway, we're kind of getting off topic. We're supposed to be talking about Agatha, but you get the point, though.
Yeah.
Well, we basically are. They made it. You're 100% right, Colin. They made a series that had very little to do with Agatha.
So here's the thing: the show is called Agatha All Along. Everything is technically because of Agatha. Like, her and her son come up with the ballad, which then gets spread through time to become like this real, but no one's ever done it before thing. And then when the teen finally hears it and has the same sort of abilities, half because he has the same sort of powers that the stones do, and has all of the juice that he gets from being a Maximoff, like, he's able just to create reality. And that reality couldn't have been made unless that particular song had been passed down so many times. So, yes, Agatha, it was the cause of everything all along.
I know, man. I get it. And people may correct me. It's like, this might be more comic book based, but I was just so disappointed that they made the teen just create it all. Like, I was looking forward to it because the parts I loved about the series, that's why I was shocked to see the responses from the internet, were the ones that actually dealt with the road. I thought the road was fascinating and thrilling and so much fun to watch. Like, all the different tests and everything about it. The trials.
Yeah,
It
trials
was
were really
awesome.
cool.
And then at the very end, it's like, just kidding. It was made up like shit in my bedroom. It's like,
Yeah.
the song itself, it's like, there's multiple trials where they got to sing it. I was like, this is really cool. Like, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, to add on to that, sorry, Kenny, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Go for it.
But yeah, no, I agree with you, Jake. Like the trials and all of that were really enticing, really engaging to the audience for sure.
Yep.
Not only that, but like you start. I don't know about you all, but I actually started to care for some of the other witches.
Yeah.
But long story short, they end up getting killed, and so like, why build this connection between the audience and these characters only to kill them off? It just didn't make sense to me.
Well, some of those characters had their goals fulfilled, like what they wanted to get out of the road, without actually being like set free from the road, had occurred.
Yeah.
Minus Miss Davis.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I understand that. But at the same time, like, I don't know, this kind of sounds cheesy the way that this is processing in my head, but like, maybe actually give the audience what they want for once and actually
like
give them characters
that
that they care about, and they all get their prize, if you will, and they all come out the other side, and there's some battles, sure, whatever, witchcraft, whatever. Give them their own little like group. Call them the Fantastic Coven or some bullshit. I don't fucking know. I mean, that sounds cheesy. I agree, but some of those characters I actually started to care for, especially Lilia.
I agree.
Oh, I mean,
for sure.
Lilia is...
Jen, so much, a little bit. I didn't really care for
Alice.
Yeah, I didn't really care for her.
Well, that's
and Miss Davis. I mean, I love her. I think she's fucking awesome.
So the deal with Alice dying and why I'm okay with it is like her entire like backstory and flaw is that she wasn't able to protect her mother.
Yeah.
So like her big driving force is like, I just want to be able to protect somebody. So when she finally does protect Agatha from her mother, and subsequently dies because of how Agatha's powers work, like she's completed her storyline at that point. Like she's gotten her prize. Like she was able to protect everybody, even if she did die in the process. So, yeah, could she have stuck around longer? Yes, I do agree with you, because there's more interactions you can have there for sure. But just her story plotline had already been like written up with a nice little bow on top.
I agree 100% with Colin. I think they should have stuck with the witches. Like, it was called Agatha All Along. And I see what you're saying, Kenny. And I'm like, I'm fine with, in terms of the writing, if one of them has to die, just to kind of keep, like, I'm fine with that. But I agree 100% with Colin. Like, the parts I loved about this series was on the Witches' Road and learning about the witches and the different trials and getting to know these characters, and all that was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And then it just ended up being the Maximoff show. And like, Well, it's like they were trying. I know they had to tie it into the other series, but there's a part of me like, do you have to do that? Like, could you not just have one? It was working, at least for me. It was working to do the Witch's Road with all the trials and all that, and get to know this covenant. And like you, at the end, there's just happy covenant. 4 of the 5 of them or whatever survive, and it is what it is. And it would have been. I think it would have been a much better ending. And they had the teen, and I was fine with that. And the big reveal is like, oh, this is actually Maximoff, and that's how maybe that's the tie-in to the rest of the series or the rest of the MCU. It's like that. The last 2 episodes just generally kind of pissed me off.
Fair, but the single best episode, kind of agreed by the internet as well, was Lilia's like trial episode.
Oh yeah,
where we learned that, okay, yeah, she is kind of like a kooky old lady, but that's because she's experiencing her life out of sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Because of her divination power, she can see most people's futures up until like where she dies. But then like she experiences her own life in like a weird order, and then that weird order is also demonstrated on how they edited that particular episode together. Because even if like you were jumping to like random points that were all like 2 to 3 minutes of each other, like before or after, like we always have the moment where she's going back to, I guess, Sicily or wherever, talking to her coven mistress, coven
whatever
leader.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know what they're called. And like she's like the elder witch is just like in full like confidence agreement, like trying to like coach her through this and be like, sometimes it's not about other people traveling through life, sometimes it's about you. So instead of using your powers to like figure out everyone else, use it on you. Mm-hmm. And it only took her 400 years to figure that bit out, but better late than never.
See that? Yeah, like that was good writing for her particular storyline, for sure.
Everything on the Witch's Road was good writing.
Yeah.
All of their trials
I agree.
was brilliant. I agree with the internet. That episode was brilliant. I really liked it. And then
but then it turns out that we gotta freaking do whatever with freaking Billy, and then we find out that Tommy survived.
Tommy also has to exist somewhere too,
and he's in some
He's in a
kid's body that ended up drowning or something to that effect, right?
Yes, correct. They were pulling a prank that I guess some bullies like shoved him into a lake and he drowns because he doesn't know how to swim.
Yeah. Fuck bullies. Derby City Fandom does not condone bullying. Just want to point that out. That could be a short right there.
Well, now that you pointed it out, I can't make it one. Anyways, go on.
Say it one more time, Colin.
No, it's past.
All right.
But yes, eventually we've realized that the road is a circle. But it honestly was really cool that they do a full circle, and was it Jen that was like, all right, I guess we'll go do this again. I'm ready to do this again, right? Was it Jen?
That was Agatha. It's just like, well, fuck it, let's just do it again.
I thought it was Jen. Okay, well then that's when the team or Billy, where I don't know if we realize it's Billy at this point. No, we do realize it's Billy at this point. So Billy ends up putting on his shoes. And then that's when they go into that other trial room.
It's the last trial.
And that's when Jen essentially, breaks free of all of it and climbs out the hole. But then it's just Agatha and Billy. And what happens next? Something about a seed or something like that.
Yeah, so she's able to kind of like move on from some of the grief about Nicholas Scratch and like her like deal, I suppose, with death / Rio, as we come to learn.
Come to learn, right?
So with that, she's able to kind of quite literally just look past the past, being the locks of hair from Nicholas, and see the little like dandelion seed in the locket, and is able to use that to pass the last test.
And ends up planting that into a broken
floor tile. The floor splits.
the floor splits, and she ends up planting that, and then we come back they go into the basement, I guess, right?
Well, she breaks out of the basement through like a cellar storm door kind of thing.
Right.
And that's where Agatha and Maximov have their, I guess, fight with death.
Yeah. I don't know if you all thought about this at all, but when, they're in the backyard there and it's, stormy, dark, whatever, when she ends up, like, all right, you can take Billy, I'm going to go off and do my thing. But then what does Billy say? He said something that caught Agatha's attention. I don't quite remember what.
It was something like, would Nicholas be okay with this? Something to that effect. Basically just like guilted her.
Yeah, no, we essentially find out that she's kind of scared to die because she doesn't want to face Nikki, right?
Yeah.
But whatever, and he ended up saying to her, that's when she comes back and kisses Rio. But when she dies, what came to mind, first thing, like legit came to mind, is when, she ends up laying down on the ground and you see all the growth and like mushrooms and shit. Anybody else think of The Last of Us when you saw that?
Oh, no. The mushrooms for the clickers and all that?
Yeah. I'm the only one? Okay.
Well, it's like I saw them grow, but I kind of mostly took that as like, okay, like mushrooms are generally next to like decay. Like, so
okay. Yes. Okay. That's a fair argument. I don't know. That's just the first thing that popped in my head. So I thought it was very interesting.
That's fair.
I'm the only one that thought of that? Okay, cool.
Just a little bit. The Last of Us would not have been my first assumption there. I was just thinking, it's like, okay, like she's now rapidly aging.
Yeah.
Because she's like 500, 400 years old. So it's like we just see her body like instantly just kind of decay into a bunch of like mulch.
That's the other thing I didn't care for. Like the very ending, we're talking about Agatha, right?
Yes, well,
now
when
she's
she
a ghost.
particularly dies. Yes.
It's like
lingering attachments, man.
Well,
it's like we get some of that like teased early on.
Ending. What a dumb ending.
Yeah, it's like it is kind of corny. Granted, I'll give you that, Jake. It is teased early on because we get the bit with Mrs. Harkness, like Agatha's mother, and how Rio, who we later find out is death, is just like, man, I hate ghosts. Because ghosts are basically just lingering attachments that can still like mess with the balance or whatever.
Right.
And I guess she doesn't have any actual control over spirits. She's able to like do stuff with life and death, but she can't do much with things that have already died but then are still around.
I get it. They just went too far. They didn't have to do all this.
Yeah.
They had everybody on the Witches' Road. That's all they needed was the witches and the Coven in the road. That's all they needed.
All right, yeah. So let's jump a little bit where we're Billy's in the room and we're realizing that all the pieces of the room, whatever, are part of the Witches' Road, right?
Yes.
And so then you hear that laugh or that scare or whatever, and it ends up being Agatha as a ghost, right? And then we jump ahead and we're in the basement again. And that's when
he seals the road off.
And then I think you see the names of the three ladies as a,
as like a little memorial.
Yeah,
but a
little nod.
They go to try to find Tommy, right?
That is like the very end.
They
are walking out of the basement.
So he's not dead, right?
Tommy is in the body. It is thought that the kid that drowned in the lake or whatever is now Tommy. So they're now wandering off to find Tommy.
That's literally how the
but we don't know if he's dead or alive.
No, we're under the impression that
he is alive.
He's alive, right?
It's
right.
The original
Tommy,
soul in the body of the kid that drowned is gone.
Oh, yeah.
Tommy would have then inherited that body.
Yeah.
Much like how Billy did.
But before all that, that's when Billy tries to banish Agatha, right? but then we see Billy holding the locket, and she's trying to like grab it, but it ends up being knocked out of his hand by Agatha, and we're like, oh.
Quick study. She's able to learn how to do poltergeist stuff.
Yeah, so that was interesting. Which, by the way, let's jump back real quick. I actually thought it was really interesting, the whole like Ouija board situation scene, you know?
Yep.
That was kind of trippy to me because that shit I honestly kind of believe in, and I would never fuck with that. And then
well, it's like most
we
of
should
those.
do it. I'm down. You want to do it?
Can we record it on here?
Sure, let's do it. There's a lot of rules of those. Like you can't rid of. Do you have a board?
No.
Most of the rules that they said in the show are correct. Like always end with goodbye. Don't taunt the spirits. Don't ask about
there's a lot
death.
of rules. You can't get rid of the board too. You gotta like keep it forever. So just saying.
I don't know. We can let Kenny buy it, but I'm down to do it.
Kenny want to buy it?
I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to put it in a box in your attic, and you'll never
You
touch
can't
it.
do that, Kenny.
Kenny,
It has to stay in your residence.
You have to maintain possession.
I'm telling you, there's a lot of rules.
Yeah, but if it's a gift, then am I necessarily ever the owner?
I don't think that's how that works.
I don't know. Whatever.
Anyways.
Overall, guys, the show was intriguing, enticing, like I said before. I'm intrigued for a season 2. Hopefully this one is actually about Agatha, but that's probably going to be
It's going to be about finding
There's no
Tommy.
way. There's no way.
It's gonna be called Maximoff All Along or some bullshit like that. I
think that'd be a fun twist on it. Call it like Agatha, Maximoff All Along.
I mean, I'll watch season 2 for sure, hands down. Hopefully, there's gonna be some, better writing per se, and maybe even more of a plot twist.
I thought this was a good watch.
It was a good watch. I definitely recommend.
I disregard what Jake says. I thought it made sense all the way through.
Nah, no, it's definitely.
It made sense, but for me they ruined it. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but like they ruined it. You had something great going on with the Witch's Road and the Covenant and all the trials and everything, and they had the big reveal about Maximoff. That's fine. That was the tie to the rest of it, and they just blew it up. They just blew it, and now she's a random freaking ghost. Yeah. Like, what are we doing? I agree with Colin. Man, I think Colin and I are kind of on the same page. I don't want to speak for him, but it's like you're talking about season 2. It's like, what's season 2? The Maximoff show? It's like, God, who cares?
The last thing I'll say, and this is actually a positive. The outro for every episode, I actually kind of did enjoy that, how it was kind of like a tribute to all like the modern day like witches, and you had all that
witches, like how witches have affected U.S. culture.
Yeah, that was pretty badass.
Yeah, I thought that was genuinely like awesome nod to that. I believe in like the witching hour, and I catch myself waking up at 3 a.m. on a lot of occasions, unfortunately. So I'm still alive.
Did anyone else watch the credits until they saw Lisa Simpson? Every time I would have to see Lisa Simpson, then I could turn it off. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, I thought where you were going with that, Colin, is that at the end of every episode, they had a different song that kind of symbolized each witch, like for the trial for that particular episode.
Billie
Time
Eilish,
in a bottle.
The Billie Eilish drop where he puts the crown on. I thought that was badass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good.
I thought that was a good touch.
Yeah. Honestly, the outro was honestly the best thing about the entire series. That's a hot take right there.
Okay.
But overall, guys, thoughts. What do you think?
It was good.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
I think I've said my part. It's
my
a good
part
watch. I feel like every episode improves on itself. I disregard what Jake and Colin think, that the plot line has to plot line, and unfortunately the climax is in the second to last episode, and that last episode is definitely an epilogue where they fill in the rest of the backstory. It's not supposed to be exciting. It's supposed to be like, oh, hey, this random little plot hole over here is now filled.
Agree to disagree.
Okay, all right. In defense of that, typically, I'm gonna use Game of Thrones as an example. You don't really get that like, oh shit moment until like episode like 7 or 8. You know what I mean? And then it kind of like calms down a little bit for the season finale of Game of Thrones. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like the season where you have the pretty much everybody dies.
I see what you're saying. This was a big contrast, though.
Yeah, I know.
This was a big leap between the second to last and the last episode.
Okay, all right. I was just trying to defend the series, but at the same time, fuck the last episode.
Oh, y'all a bunch of haters. You just didn't like the fact that they sung the song like 20 times.
The episode being
the
40 minutes or whatever. Fuck, it was 30 minutes long. Just entire sing. Now the whole like montage of all the covens trying to kill Agatha, and she ends up killing a bunch of witches. That was cool. I enjoyed that. But it was just I don't care about the song that much.
I do. I thought the song was cool.
It's catchy, yes, but I don't give a flying fuck. I don't. The song is catchy, and yes, I did find myself singing it at work or at home or whatever. That's fine, but God bless.
You hate.
I hate
you
that
absolutely
I
loathe
hate
the fact that you like this song.
No, I hate that it was catchy.
It was good. It was good.
Whatever.
All right, let's end this.
Anyways, Colin, where can the people find us if they want to find us?
Please, everybody, give us a like, follow. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Give us a like, follow, comment. If you have any suggestions for episodes, or if you think that everything we said in this episode is absolute bullshit, let us know. We will gladly go to war with you on the interwebs.
Yes. Engagement.
We are all about that. But other than that, everybody, I love you all. I love you both. Let's rock and roll.
All right. Everybody have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.